Well, welcome. Thank you all so much for joining us for this webinar. Each month, our customer success team does a webinar on a different topic. And so looking forward to talking with you guys today about Accelerate. So my name is Emily, and I am an implementation manager here at Passageways, and look forward to just sharing with you about this release that just took place about a week and a half ago. I'm also joined with Joe Bauer as a co-host for this webinar. He's also an implementation manager. You'll hear from us both today. And then Brian Martin, our customer success manager, as well as Gabe, a customer success manager, will be talking to you all on chat. So be sure to use the Q&A chat function for any questions that come up during the webinar. You can feel free to just type them as they come, and then we might answer a few throughout, and then certainly at the end we will have a dedicated time for question and answer. Also, if you have a really specific question to your own organization, feel free to go ahead and give that to them in chat, because for those really specific ones, we will certainly pass them on to your customer success manager, implementation manager to follow up with you after the webinar. So anyway, our agenda for today is to cover what is OnBoard Accelerate. Then Joe is going to navigate around the platform to show you some of the changes, and then a few things that are helpful to know as you get used to the new onboard front end. Then I'll give you a few tips as you start to use the new front end, and then we'll take a sneak peek at some upcoming releases that you'll see likely before the end of the year, which I think are really exciting. They're I think some of the most exciting features that we've seen this year. Then at the end, we will wrap up with a question and answer time. Okay, so first of all, just on the next slide, I'll share with you, or actually some housekeeping, excuse me. All of the mics are muted by default, especially with a group this big. So again, just make use of your Q&A portion for anything that you need to get our attention about. Feel free to also raise your hand if you need anything, and a person from our team on the chat will help you. And yeah, like we said, please make use of that. Happy for this to be interactive for us to touch base about what's on your mind. Also, just as we all know, since we're all working remotely, thank you for having patience with us if any of our at-home workflows. Gotta love it if your audio goes down in the middle. Hopefully it's not. We kind of made some special care for that. But thanks for your patience, just as our team is all working remotely, as I'm sure most of you are as well. Okay, so OnBoard Accelerate. What is OnBoard Accelerate? First of all, that name came for what we feel like are the characteristics around this release. So you will see some technical differences, design difference, and then we find that it really is providing a foundation for growth for our upcoming releases. We find that really exciting. So I'll take a little deeper dive into that, but that's why we're calling this OnBoard Accelerate. Just to give you an idea of the release date, it happened just over a week ago. During the weekend, so just about a week and a half ago. So maybe you can have that in your mind, how much time you've spent in OnBoard the past week and a half, whether you've seen this or not. Okay, so moving on, most of the change for OnBoard Accelerate and the release is a new design. So we call this a new design system. Basically what that means is we have kind of just tweaked and upgraded the design. And when we say that, the buttons having a similar style, and just kind of lifted that up, facelift, kind of giving it a more modern style, also making it a little bit easier to use. So especially, I think just in general, some things making them more intuitive. And then there are a few items that we just had noticed could have been made more intuitive to make your lives easier as an admin when you're training, as well as your end users when you're helping them use the system. So that kind of is an umbrella of most of the design that you will see updated. We do like to say you don't necessarily need training to understand these changes. Like I said, we will be highlighting those. Joe's going to highlight the changes that are helpful to see here as we get going. But in general, there's not drastic workflow changes that would require new training. I think you'll see. It also proactively improves security. You all know that one of the biggest benefits, one of the biggest strengths of OnBoard is our security. We know that you all are dealing with a lot of confidential information. So this just provides the foundation for us to be very proactive with security, both now and in the future. It also completed groundwork for future feature enhancements, like we're going to talk about at the end here, to give you an idea of some of the exciting ones that are coming up. But also it is allowing us for future enhancements to our engineering team to develop those even quicker with the foundation that was created in this release. And then moving on to the next slide, we strive to continue to be really a leader in your board software experience. So this is what we've rolled out as being the best in class user experience, again, just for design and then intuitive use. Our focus was on simplification and consistency, making the whole experience more intuitive. And like I said, mostly we would say that it's just modern, easier to use is what people have been saying. And then in general, I talked about just a technical uplift and growth through this release. Basically, the future of OnBoard is we want to continue to help you make better decisions by surfacing powerful data-driven insights. So not only just being your board portal solution, but even providing data in some of your experiences behind some of the features to help your board to more strategically function and to focus on innovation as a board intelligence platform. And like I said, I think that you're going to see that in our future releases. You'll see and feel that coming at you. And just the future of some of our features, I think you could say that it is supporting your boards to function as data enabled. Okay, next slide. Okay, so just as we have had this release, some initial feedback from customers is just what we were hoping that, the intention that it's not something that necessarily requires training, but helps just an intuitive approach to OnBoard, just kind of an uplift in making the design a little bit more modern and helping your life as an admin, your workflow be a little bit more efficient. We look forward to hearing your feedback as well as you use this and then have interaction with your customer success manager and with your implementation manager. We look forward to hearing your feedback. When we did the redesign, we were able to take a lot of feature requests that we've had come in over time, just about little tweaks within the system in order to make your experience better. So thanks as always for giving those to us on your annual review calls and in your conversations with your implementation managers, because some of our best enhancements come from you all who are in the portal every day doing your workflows. And so we always thank you for providing that. Okay, so like I mentioned, Joe is going to take you into the system and show you some of the stylistic changes as well as some helpful things to know as you navigate within OnBoard Accelerate. Joe?
Yeah, thanks, Emily. I appreciate it. And can you confirm for me, Emily, I'll trust that if you can see my screen okay and you can see the blue square there that says the human fund, that everybody else will be able to as
I
well.
can see it. You're good to go.
All right, you'll have to forgive me. I'm a huge Seinfeld fan, so I made one of my dummy accounts here after the charity that George Costanza invents when he's trying to get out of giving Christmas presents to his coworkers. So that's where the human fund comes from. But really just wanted to show some of the enhancements, some of the things that may look just a little bit different. You saw that a lot of the initial feedback that we've received is that everything's maybe a little bit more intuitive. It's a little bit more streamlined, a little bit easier to navigate, but the heart and soul of the platform is the same. So hopefully you'll find that nothing will look too jarring. Everything will look pretty familiar, but I did want to make sure that we were covering some major things that maybe will be a little bit different process than what you were used to in the past. One of the first things that I wanted to bring to your attention is going to be found right here from the dashboard view. So for any of you that may be wanting to schedule an announcement, you see here that when I click Add New and I start creating an announcement, the process before was that as you were typing, we kind of had an auto save functionality. I know for me personally, because of my typing cadence, sometimes the system had a hard time keeping up with what I was typing, and it could be just a little bit of a frustrating experience. So we tried to improve that for you, that instead of the system automatically keeping up with your typing, instead, you can now type out the entire announcement title. You can type out the entire body of your announcement. And once you've made all of those changes, you'll click the button up here at the top that says Save Changes. This is going to be something that you're going to see throughout the platform, that we kind of have this new save and continue functionality that's a little bit different than what you may have been used to in the past. In addition to this spot right here with the save and continue functionality, you may see that as well for any of the subscribers to our governance package, that as, for example, you're creating a new approval, you will see that when you name your new approval, and I'll just call this the test approval, we do have this function once again over on the side that asks you to save your changes. Once you've done that, that's when you can get into the exact same things that you did before as far as manage who you want to participate in this particular approval, customizing the way that you want the approval results to be displayed, those sorts of things. But the main thing that changes there is that if you need to edit any of the details, the major details to your approval, those things you will need to click Save Changes to make sure that they're appropriately saved. So a little bit different there. The third area of the platform that I'm sure all of you have used at different times would be our calendar functionality. This is where you schedule new meetings, create agendas, compile board books, all that good stuff. You also are going to see some save and continue functionality from this area of the platform as well. So when I am creating a new meeting, exactly like we saw with the approval just moments ago, if I do want to create a new meeting here, I can give it a new name, I can give it an address, date and time, all that good stuff. And then I am going to click Save Changes to make sure that those changes do get saved. And at that point, you'll see a very familiar setup as far as managing the people that are going to be invited to the meeting, composing your agenda, and so on. So that was a big thing that I wanted to bring to your attention, that in many cases throughout the platform, we have updated things a little bit, and you will see some save and continue functionality. Now, the save and continue functionality is not the only kind of new thing that we have related to our meeting sections, to our meeting section here. You will also notice some big changes that I hope that you really like with our agenda builder. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and use a meeting that I've already created that already has some things in here. So I'm going to go to my sample meeting and go to my agenda builder from here. So this is a meeting that's already been a little bit more built out than that brand new one that I just created. One of the first things that you may notice here is that now we do have these little icons that are associated with each of your individual agenda sections to let you know that files have already been uploaded to those areas. Previously, you would only be able to see those things if you were to click the Expand All button, or maybe to expand agenda sections one at a time. I also have a little checkmark icon associated with the specific agenda section because it also has an approval link to it. So anytime that you do have an action that's going to be linked to one of your agenda sections, you will see an icon associated with that too. Another small change that we hope that you appreciate, previously, It was a little bit difficult, the feedback that we received, to be able to rearrange agenda sections. So let's say, for example, that after the fact, I decide, well, this section C, appointment of treasurer, I actually want that to appear before section B, employee benefit plans name change. Now, previously we did have a drag and drop system, but the feedback that we got was that sometimes it could get a little bit confusing, that when you did drag and drop, things could accidentally indent or unindent. Instead, we've replaced the previous system with a simple up or down button functionality. So now you see that just by clicking this up button, I rearranged these agenda sections, and now appointment of treasurer appears before employee benefit plans name change. If I want to move it back to where it was, I can just click the down button and it rearranges once again. Finally, one other change that we do have to the agenda builder is that I know for some of the groups that I work with, occasionally they'll want to include things kind of in their outline, but they don't necessarily need that information to be included in the outline structure. So we do still have a function available to you where you can remove section numbering from any given section that you've created from within your agenda. To do that, you'll now click on the associated number. And at that point, I can click this button that says remove section numbering. So a little bit different than the way that that used to work in the past. Finally, one other thing that I wanted to bring to your attention that I think is a little bit different, that was based on feedback that we received from a lot of the ads that we work with. I know for a lot of the folks that I worked with, they might have created even a whole separate identity within the onboard platform. That the admins that I worked with might invite themselves into the platform just as regular end users, just so that they could see exactly what things were going to look like to their regular members. We decided that it might be a little bit more efficient if instead we just combined the views of several screens so that admins would be able to see the things that their board members were looking at. One of those examples can be found right here in the calendar function. So when I click on the meeting that I want to review, you may recall that as admins previously in our system, we had a button up in the top right corner that said finish editing. So as soon as you were done making any of your administrative changes and you wanted to see what it was going to look like to your board members, you could click the button that said finish editing, and then you would be able to see things like RSVP functionality, for example. We decided it might make a little bit more sense to combine those views. So you as the admin, not only are you immediately going to be able to see all of your administrative functions. So for example, if you need to make any changes, you can do that here. But right here from the screen, you're immediately going to see who are all the people that have been invited to the meeting so that you can rest assured that yes, the appropriate people have been invited without having to actually get into that manage invitees functionality. Now, keep in mind when I say that the admins are going to see some things that your end users previously were only able to see, it doesn't work backwards. Your end users aren't suddenly going to have a button that says edit details if they haven't been given administrative access to a specific meeting. I only meant to point out that we have combined the views so that you as an admin are going to be able to see things that your end users previously were able to see. This is not the only spot in the platform where we do have kind of combined views. Getting back to our actions functionality, here's a sample approval that was created previously, and you can see that this approval is currently open and accepting votes. Well, previously you may recall that if you were set up as an admin and voter, there was a button up in the top right corner that allowed you to switch back and forth between the admin view and the voter view. Once again, we've combined both of those views here so that you're going to get access to all of the exact same information from the same screen. The only difference in view that is going to take place between what you, the admin, are able to see and what your end user is going to be able to see is going to be based on which of these panels are included in the screen. So for example, a regular end user is going to be able to see the title of the approval, but obviously they aren't going to see a button that said edit details. But regardless, you will be able to see your entire voting history. You'll be able to see approval results, be able to see all of those good things as an admin. Once again, assuming that you are assigned to this particular approval as both an admin and voter. So those were the main things that I wanted to bring to your attention that were a little bit different, that we thought might require just a little bit of training to avoid confusion down the road. But I did also want to bring to your attention a couple changes that we're very proud of, and we hope that you find very intuitive. But we just wanted to bring to your attention, not because we felt that they required training, but just because we're proud of these changes. And we wanted to make sure that this was something that everybody had noticed. First of all, from the directory screen, you'll now notice that instead of having to hover over someone's name in order for the 3 action dots to appear on the right side of the screen, those are all now fixed. So we hope that you find that pretty intuitive. We also thought that things were maybe just a little bit confusing when you could take certain actions, such as deactivating a member by selecting their role, and you could take other actions like removing a member from the directory entirely by clicking on the 3 action dots. We decided to combine all of those functions into one easy to access area. So for example, anything related to Gilbert Alvarado, I can now click my 3 actions buttons, and anything that I would want to do for this user is now all going to be in one spot. We hope that you find that system a whole lot easier to navigate. Finally, another area that I wanted to bring to your attention was this resources area. I know for a lot of the admins that I talked to, a question that kept coming up over and over and over was, is there any way that we can sort by? Is there any way that we could arrange things by date instead of alphabetically? We did have kind of a workaround for that where you could use a numeric dating system for the names of your files so that we could sort of trick the system that it would still be arranged alphabetically, but the alphabet would be reading 01 for January, for example, so that that would appear at the top of your list. Well, instead, now we have the ability to sort by. So I can either arrange these things alphabetically by clicking on the name, or if I want to look at the things that have been updated the most recently or the first away, that will rearrange things as well. Now, you may notice that in this particular example, every single one of my items has the date and time of July 21st, 8:59 p.m. So when I do click the updated button, it's not rearranging anything. But trust me when I say that as you are using your resources area and as you're making updates, obviously these dates and times would all be a little bit different, and therefore things will be arranged a little bit differently here as well. I hope that you really, really like the new platform. Like we mentioned a couple times earlier, none of these changes, I hope, were anything that you're going to find too jarring, but we did just want to bring a couple of those things to your attention. Obviously, as you continue to familiarize yourself with the new platform, if you do have questions that come up, please don't be strangers to us. Reach out to your implementation manager, reach out to your customer success manager. Let us know if you have any feedback on how we can continue to improve. Because one thing I did hear Emily mention earlier is that a lot of our very best features and functions have come directly from recommendations from our customers. So make sure that you're always keeping us in the loop and let us know how we can continue to improve your experience. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Emily.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Joe. It was great to cover that with everyone. And we're just curious, as you just took a little tour, a poll question is going to pop up, and we want to know, have you used OnBoard Accelerate yet? This, to give you some timing, it was released about a week and a half ago on Saturday. So if you've been in OnBoard since then, you have been in it. But that poll is going to pop up, and if you could just answer that, we will get an idea if you had actually have used it yet. There we go. Have you used OnBoard Accelerate, yes or no? But you're looking forward to it, hopefully, especially after this webinar. So great. Looks like a lot of you have been in.
A whole lot of yes votes here.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's great to
exactly.
see.
I know some of my customers are in there for quarterly meetings, and some people are in there weekly or even daily. So it really varies depending on how you use the portal. But okay, looks like a good number of people have. So that's awesome. Great. Well, some things to keep in mind as you start to use OnBoard Accelerate, and really for any update that we have here at OnBoard, are both of these points that I'm helping customers with. Usually when there's a release, these are my most common questions. So just want to share them with you to proactively help with any issues. The first one is to clear your cache. So the reason for this is because your browser can kind of save some of your URL history as you're navigating through OnBoard. So as it saves that, it could revert to an old URL as you're navigating through OnBoard. Typically, this just looks like a bug. And I know when one of my customers has this, it typically manifests as an issue that they're seeing. And I myself doing the exact same thing, I don't see it on my end. So I would recommend for anyone listening to this, if you have not cleared your cache in the last week and a half, to do so. The next question many of you probably have is, how do I do that? Well, it depends on which browser you use. But I know for me in Chrome, in the top right-hand corner, those vertical 3 lines. If you click on that, then you go into history again, then you'll see clear browsing data, and you have a few options of what to do there, and clearing your cache is one of those. But depending on whatever browser you use, if you just go into your settings, and then it's typically under history and clearing browsing data. And again, you're looking for your cache to clear. Secondly, is the URL that you use to log into OnBoard. It's cleanest if you use onboard.passageways.com. And if you're like me, you might, at the very beginning, you might have logged into OnBoard and then bookmarked it for future use. And that's kind of a deeper link into the site. What can happen is sometimes when we have a release, some of those deeper links change. So if you have just the basic onboard.passageways.com, which should be the URL that you point your system to. That way for this release and others, you won't have any issues logging in. Typically what that manifests as is just someone trying to log in and it goes to an error page. That just typically means that you were logging into a deeper URL that was not onboard.passageways.com. So those are 2 things you can do to be proactive. Again, of course, if you have any questions or if you're confused or think you maybe are running into a bug, just contact your implementation manager or your customer success manager, and we're happy to hear you. And we're happy to hear your feedback too as you start to use it. Okay, so as promised, wanted to give you a heads up for some of the features that will be released next, that are next on the docket. Some of these they're in differing stages of the final stages of development. So that being said, we know, I'm going to share with you the general functionality of all of these. Some of them were still, if there's very specific questions, some of them are still at the end of being developed. So we may or may not defer some specifics about these, but I hope you find these as exciting as I do. So this one I'm really excited about because this is going for all customers. It will be applied because it's part of our core package. I have had this feature request from a number of people, and I can totally see why. It's the ability to add a custom message to the meeting brief email, basically to the published email once a meeting, I'm sorry, saying sorry, to the meeting notification when a meeting has been published. So you can see here in this example at the top, we have an example of Gracie Fellows, the admin, pointing out which sections have had some changes as she republishes the book. So that way those notes can be passed on to everyone. Another thing I love about this is it gives the user their RSVP status. And so if they have not RSVP'd, it's going to remind them here, kind of like a little prompt. And I know from working with several of you, it can be kind of a learning curve to your users to get them in the habit of RSVPing. So I love that it kind of prompts them to do that. You can see in this one, the user is currently attending, but if they have not RSVP'd, it will note that to them. So more information about this will be coming out. And so keep your eyes out for this. I'm sure so many questions are, what is the date that we have this? I can't promise a date right now, but this will be coming up soon and before the end of the year. So next one. Very excited about this one as well. So this is a highly requested feature from a lot of admins. This is going to be in the productivity package. So for those of you that have productivity, you will automatically get this when it comes out. For those of you that don't, if you're interested in a demo or a quote, your growth manager, let us know. We can connect you with your growth manager to give you a demo and a prize for this. But I just think for any of you on the call who take meeting minutes, I'm very excited for you to experience this. Basically, it's going to give a branded minutes. If you want it to be branded, you don't have to. Minutes taking screen. It's based off of your agenda. It links with tasks, so you can create tasks as you're creating your meeting minute notes. It links with actions if you want to take a motion, details about a motion, but you're not going through the actual voting in OnBoard system, but you just want to record it here. It helps you to do that. It helps you take attendance in a certain format. And yeah, I just think this is really exciting, and looking forward to you who take minutes for experiencing this. Again, this is on track to be released before the end of the year. And then finally, our third one is a D&O questionnaire. So this is a little more niche. Definitely realize that not everyone on the call has a need for this, but I think for those of you that do have a need for it, it's great news that you're going to be able to do this within OnBoard. So this, since we realize it's only probably about 10% of you that have a need for this, it's not in any of our packages. It is a standalone add-on feature. So if you're one of those people, please let us know, and we are happy to connect you with your growth manager to do a demo for this. But we know that, you have to do, for those of you that have to do this, there are some consistent compliance questions that you need to be asking for people, and that there's an advantage for doing that within OnBoard, both for security and then also just for your workflow, so you can have all the information in here. You can copy over questions and questionnaires, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. And so look forward, for those of you that have this need, to really feel the support from this for being able to take place within OnBoard. Again, the release date for this is targeted to be before the end of the year. Okay, so lastly, we just kind of want to end with a poll question. As we said, a lot of our product development is directed with feedback that we get from you all who are using it all the time. So we're curious, we'd love to hear from you if tracking board member roles and term limits is a problem for you today, and then where you track this information currently. So that question is going to pop up for you here. And then we will look forward to sharing this with our product development team. So is tracking board member roles and term limits a problem for you today? If you could answer yes or no. Okay, it doesn't look like a majority, but it does look like for some people that some support around that they would find helpful. Mm-hmm. So thank you so much to everyone that is responding on that. Great. And then we're just curious if you can share with us, where do you track this information currently? So give it just a moment here, and that is going to pop up for you. Okay. Here we go. Where do you track this information currently? Maybe in a spreadsheet, somewhere within OnBoard, or another software tool or other. If you use something like you feel is significant for us to know, and you're in the other category, feel free to throw that in the chat if that's something that you feel would be helpful for you to share with us. Thank you guys for all of your feedback. It looks like most people's a spreadsheet. People have to track it. Doesn't look like you're currently doing that in OnBoard. And then for others of you, you're using it in another software tool. So thank you very much for that feedback. We will look forward to sharing that with our product development for looking surrounding functionality around this in OnBoard. Okay, so we definitely want to give some time for question and answer. So what questions do you all have about Accelerate or some of the upcoming features that we can answer?
So Emily, hi everyone. This is Gabe Smith with OnBoard as well. I just want to address, because I think you had pointed out at one point in regards to security updates, and of course that's quite the buzzword here that's gotten a lot of people questions towards that. So let me just kind of note that again, this is just kind of some general information for you all. I did want to address that since several of you asked. If you want any more detailed, more technical, I would probably again encourage you to directly request that from your customer success manager. But the couple of items that I have been noted, we moved OnBoard from Angular to Vue systems. The new Vue platform is more modern and has a more robust regular security patch deployment. And then we've also structured how we've written our code to make make a lot of the terms hidden in the background. This means that if someone were to ever inspect the code, there'd be nothing decipherable or that can't be copied. So again, these are things that are really behind the scenes. They're not things that you directly or your users will be kind of experiencing. But I did want to again clarify that, since there were a lot of questions related to just the security information. So again, if there are any requests for any more technical elements there, just let your CSM know, and they can certainly track that down for you.
Here's another good question from one of our anonymous attendees. Wanted to know if they'll be able to, in the future, customize the emails for notifications about actions or just about meetings. For right now, that is just for meetings. However, like many things with OnBoard, once we have a tool that's been implemented in one thing, eventually you'll see that sort of enhancements kind of morph through and ease through other tools as we update those. So for the time being, that capability is just going to be in meetings, but do not be surprised as we look to enhance the approvals tools or the other actions that you will see more capabilities with those notifications as well.
Thanks for that, Brian. And just for those of you that do have needs to follow up for those that are using actions, here are some things with current functionality that you can use that I've seen customers be successful with. For those of you that have Messenger, that can be a good place for you to follow up if you're waiting for some more votes or you're waiting for someone to sign. It's a good place for you to follow up there. Also, I know some of my customers that have tasks have set up a task for those people that you're waiting, that as you set up an action that you need someone to reply to, because keep in mind that tasks, which is part of our productivity suite, it's going to email someone on the due date and every date that it's overdue until they've completed it. So those would just be some ideas if any of you find that would be helpful in your workflow. What other questions do we have?
I think that covered most of the ones. Let's see if there's any new questions. We got some thank yous. There's a thank you for the improvements to the past meeting history. I'm glad to see that was appreciated. I had other users reach out to me privately and say that was a feature that they were very glad to see, that it was much easier now to find past meetings. Shelly has a question about the capabilities of sending emails to groups through OnBoard. At this time, we don't have that capability, though we do have the messaging tool available as part of the productivity package, where you can do instant notifications through the tool. You can also, of course, if you have a meeting that a group's invited to with the new meeting messages, can send personal notes through that as well, as they explained earlier.
Yeah, one more thing I'd like to chime in there as well, Shelly, is that you do have the option to send out announcements, if you'd like, using our collaboration suite directly from the dashboard. That can be a great way to send out anytime that you were thinking maybe you would have sent out a blast email to a bunch of people within the organization. You can always create a group that includes all of those people from within the directory, and then send out an announcement from the dashboard that's catered directly to those folks. And then it can be sent out newsletter style. You can include links to related URLs, you can include photos, you can include lots of information there. So a few different options for how you can address different members of your organization.
Here's another question asking about, is there going to be a way in the future to archive past actions? So when you link an action to a meeting, you're not looking through a huge list of actions. So you can go ahead if you and actually put a link through the web browser. If you copy and paste when you have a particular question or action or survey in mind, you can pull that up. You can also have the results. You can store the results in resources for an action, so whether it's the results of a vote or the results of a survey or an e-signature that you've completed. Save those results to the resource folder inside of OnBoard, and then copy and paste that link into your meetings or reports in there where people can use that as a reference point. I've had other organizations that I've worked with that have used that tool for the time being. We are always taking suggestions for improvement. So if you'd like to see more archiving tools for the actions, reach out to your CSM and discuss about what changes you'd like to see to the product and improvements that we can make for you and your team. Training materials. Here's a good question. When is updated training materials be available? Very, very soon. I know our training team has been diligently working on putting together updated training materials. I know saw some updates on that soon. Jenny, do you have an idea when the training materials will be ready for launch?
Overall, they are rolling out as they're completed. Most of the ones with the most impactful workflow changes have been updated, but obviously, if you have any specific questions that the training materials aren't answering, always feel free to contact your CSM or help in the meantime. But I anticipate all of them will be updated before the Thanksgiving holiday. I know our team's working hard on that.
Does anybody else have any questions that they'd like to ask? Now is the excellent opportunity.
I would just stress to everyone as well that if there is, in regards to either an issue that you've experienced from the release that you have not put in a support ticket for or have not spoken to your customer success manager, I would definitely reach out to either your customer success manager or technical support. We certainly want to make sure and address everything here in an effective way, but obviously kind of these Q&A prompts and everything else, isn't necessarily the best forum for being able to troubleshoot all these items. We do want to make sure, again, that those all get handled. So again, I encourage anyone that is having any issues with that, do reach out to your CSM or do reach out to tech support. That way we can make sure and get these items remedied. Also, if you have any kind of follow-up items or kind of questions like that, again, your customer success manager is going to be a great resource for any of these kind of ongoing needs. So do make sure to note those. We are saving all of your messages and prompts, so we will direct this to your appropriate customer success manager so they can follow up on any of these items. But I just want to, again, we're trying to do our best job of answering all these questions, but obviously some of these things are probably going to require more back and forth conversation that unfortunately just the Q&A prompts are just not going to necessarily provide the best forum for. So just want to hopefully, again, put some minds at ease there in that respect as well.